Hello, everyone. Now that all the sales for 2024 have been tallied, we can take a closer look at some of the biggest automotive flops of the year that's passed. Many cars struggled to reach their targets, but one of the biggest sales failures was the controversial BMW XM. Last year was its first full year on sale in the USA, and somehow only 1,974 units found a new home in the USA. Cars that were more successful within BMW's own range include the 6-year-old Z4, the iX, and the X7. It's not a question of money either. Lamborghini had its best sales year ever, delivering 3,712 new cars to the Americas. The Italian brand does not provide a detailed breakdown, but the Urus is by far the best-selling model, so it's safe to assume that it outsold the XM too. Mercedes also sold 10,988 G-Class units last year, and that's with only the G63 being available for a large portion of the year. What's so weird about BMW's struggle to sell the XM is that the Germans don't often get it wrong. Before any car gets the go-ahead from the bosses, it has to go through several steps, including market research, a concept car to gauge interest, and at least 3 more rounds of studies to ensure that there is a customer for whatever they are building. No automaker in history has made a car on a whim, though the Pontiac Aztek and Chevrolet SSR have a whiff of elevator pitch about them. It's not only BMW who got it wrong in recent years. Mercedes-Benz also added a luxury mid-size pickup to its range, which sounds like a license to print money, right? But after 2 years and 15,000 units sold, it pulled the plug. Why? Market research proves that pickup trucks and SUVs have been the 2 most popular categories over the last decade. So how did a BMW SUV and a Mercedes pickup truck end up on a list of the biggest flops the industry has ever seen? To be honest, I'm quite surprised the BMW XM failed. This car ticks all the right boxes. It's an SUV, which has been the hottest body style for at least a decade, and it's the most expensive and visually striking Bimmer on sale. It's also no secret that BMW designed it for people who want the world to look at them. To put it bluntly, it was tailor-made for the kind of people who walk into the dealership and order the most expensive car available. Normally, these kinds of cars do well, despite what anyone might have to say. Personally, I thought the XM was a bust because it had no idea what it wanted to be. It was the Halo model, and only the second standalone M model in the brand's history. But it's slower than most M models, which cost half as much, and has an appalling ride even in comfort mode. The XM does have a beautiful interior, and I like the electric-only mode. But I don't think those are qualities people are looking for in an M car. As we've said before, the XM would not have been so offensive if it was called the X8. But BMW put the M in the name, and that comes with expectations. What the XM has illustrated is that loyalists can't be duped. They know what they want, and a plug-in hybrid SUV isn't it. In this case, BMW could learn a lesson from Mercedes-Benz, instead of building the XM as its Halo model. Perhaps a project like the Mercedes-AMG 1 would have been a better idea. Sure, Mercedes-Benz didn't make a lot of money out of its record-setting hypercar, but it's worth billions in brand recognition. To date, it's the only car equipped with an F1 engine, and though it has little in common with a GLA 35, that connection is still there. An AMG owner can always point to the one and say, "Look what my brand did." That's why Halo cars exist. Instead, BMW M owners have to point to an ugly, expensive SUV that's nowhere near as good as a Lamborghini Urus, or an X5M for that matter. That's not to say that Mercedes-Benz can't also get it wrong. Its most recent sales failure was even more high-profile than the XM, even though it had nothing to do with the American market. A little over 10 years ago, Mercedes-Benz decided to build a high-end mid-size pickup truck. At the launch of the new Mercedes-Benz GLC, we asked questions about this new pickup truck, and we were told that even though it would share a ladder frame platform with Nissan, it would be a proper Mercedes product. No engine sharing or anything like that, they said. And then the X-Class made its debut, and it was only available with poor Nissan turbocharged diesel engines. Mercedes bragged about the independent rear suspension, but the Nissan Navara, the X-Class, was based on got there first. I remember driving this car for the first time. Within 30 miles, I knew Mercedes had made a big mistake. The X-Class felt like it was rushed into production, because it was. Mercedes announced that it was working on a pickup truck in 2015, and it went on sale in 2017. That's simply not enough time to develop a vehicle, and it showed. I can give you two examples as proof. First, the X-Class was equipped with Mercedes Command Infotainment System, and the newer MBUX was already available. Secondly, and most telling, the single cup holder wasn't deep enough to hold a can of Coke. It was around an inch deep, so every time you hit the brakes, whatever beverage would topple over and spill on the command controls and gear lever. The quality of the interior was poor, the ergonomics were terrible, and it just wasn't a pleasing car to drive. Mercedes sort of fixed the problem when it finally put its own 3.0-liter turbocharged V6 diesel under the hood, but then had the audacity to charge double the price of a Navara for a mid-size pickup truck that wasn't as good as the product it's based on. The X-Class was built specifically for Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Latin America, and Africa. During its first full year on sale, Mercedes sold 16,700 units, and it dropped to 15,300 in 2019. To put that into context, Ford sells roughly 60,000 Rangers per year in Australia alone. The X-Class did not work in any of these markets. Both these cars should have worked. A BMW Go Faster SUV and a Mercedes-Benz pickup truck seem like brilliant ideas on paper, but a brilliant idea is simply not good enough. You also have to give a car substance, and that's what both cars are lacking. If the XM was more focused, it would have been a better car. If Mercedes didn't rush the X-Class and develop the thing properly, it might even have reached the USA. Instead, it was a luxury pickup truck that wasn't even luxurious enough to keep a can of Pepsi upright. These two cars also illustrate the need to be innovative. The SUV and pickup truck craze has gotten so out of hand that it's actually difficult to go out and buy a sedan. There are only a handful of automakers that will still sell you such a thing these days. What we need is just one automaker to stand up and do something different, and I'm kind of hoping it's Nissan. What else have they got to lose at this point? The fact is that customers don't always know what they want. Mazda nearly didn't build the MX-5 Miata because it thought there wasn't a market for it. But they went ahead with the project anyway, and it became the best-selling roadster of all time. To this day, it arguably remains the go-to car for people looking for cheap thrills, and the best thing about it is that it's one of the oldest and simplest recipes in automotive history. It has an engine in the front, a gearbox in the middle, and power that goes to the rear wheels only. Perhaps Nissan needs to go back to the basics. Since there's just one sub-$20,000 new car left, Nissan should build one. Give it a decent engine, an independent front suspension, a stylish exterior, and all the features required to make it comfortable. A fun-to-drive car with an affordable MSRP. No more, no less. Another first-generation Ford Focus moment, if you will. That's a recipe for success in 2025, when everything is getting more expensive, and affordable cars are becoming more of a need.